Hello and welcome to this video that I'm going to do today, which is about this conjunction of Jupiter and Venus, both in Cancer, as you can see here at 25 degrees 47 of Cancer. And this is going to be on the 9th of June. So this conjunction is worth talking about because it's very beneficial because these are the two most benefic planets. Venus and Jupiter, which is exalted in Cancer and is with Venus. Venus is doing very well in Cancer in the sign of the moon. So yes, and also this is like our last opportunity over these next 3 weeks. It's like a boost of Jupiter energy before it goes into Leo. So yeah, so that's why I'm talking about it. And also they are both conjunct the fixed star Procyon, as you can see here in yellow. And I have done another video about this conjunction with this fixed star. So if you want to check it out, then go for it. For now, I'm going to focus only on this Venus and Jupiter conjunction because yes, I'm not going to do a too long video. And also I already explained this previously. So yes, I'm talking about this so you can all take advantage of this good energy because it's not often that we have this conjunction, especially into a good sign like Cancer, because Jupiter takes 12 years, to go around the whole zodiac. So Jupiter is not going to be back in Cancer for another 12 years. Yeah, so it doesn't happen all the time. And especially in Cancer, I was thinking, is it one of the best signs where we can have this conjunction? And I think apart from if it would have been in Pisces, it would have been more powerful, more beneficial because Venus is exalted in Pisces and also Jupiter rules Pisces. So we can say for this conjunction, it seems like this is a second best. Yeah, and then in a nutshell, I've said, this fixed star Procyon has also to do with possibly an opportunity that can come quickly. So on top of it, because this conjunction, as I'm going to break down now, has to do with some possible blessings and opportunities coming our ways. So on that day, on the 9th of June, even if you don't know much about astrology, the least you can do, is focus your attention, take a deep breath, make a wish. Or if you want to start something new to do with your relationship, to do with love, to do with money, to do with your home, or your children, all the themes I'm going to discuss about anyway now in more details. So keep that in mind. And then on the 9th of June, you can start your project, your plan, and then, yeah, just, take advantage of this blessing from the cosmos. Because Venus, she's here. Venus, yeah, also it's worth mentioning that this, you have to look at where it's going to affect you. So you have to know where you have Cancer in your birth chart. And this in this house of your chart where you have Cancer. So let's say, for example, if it was in your fourth house, then it will be relating to matters of your home and your family even more. If this was in your 10th house, could be to do with your career, with your public life, with your reputation. If it's in your 7th house, then it's going to affect more your relationships with other or with another person, business partnership, intimate relationships. So if you know where you have Cancer, then you can know in more details how this benefic event is going to happen for you. Also, have a look at where you have Taurus and Libra, and also Sagittarius, because these are the houses and Pisces ruled by both Venus and Jupiter. So this is where you can have a hint of how things will unfold for you, and make the best of it. That's the whole point. Because Venus is about creativity, love, romance, luxurious things. Venus is also about receiving money offers and, earning more money. It's about woman, also any gift. Maybe you give a gift, maybe you receive a gift from someone else. Venus also has to do with social events, art, artists, music, singing. It can also be linked to the beauty industry, anything like cosmetics and all that. It's linked to Venus. Venus is what we desire, our desires, what delights us. It's also about having riches and valuable possessions. So this can also have to do with reconciliations. If you had arguments with someone, or if your relationship was on the rocks and things were not ideal, Venus is the one that Venus is the one that builds bridges between people. So she can reconcile you with someone else, if you were not talking to someone for a while, then it can't be any better time to at least try, to reach out to somebody else, see if you can make peace. Yeah, so because Venus is also about being attractive, or how we attract over, attraction, and all kinds of attachment to people, to things, so this is all what Venus represents and more. And also for Jupiter, it's about moral order in the universe. At best, Jupiter has integrity in all law matters. So that can also be a good time for legal matters, if you were having issues with the laws as well. Then, you could get justice, for example, because Jupiter has to do with justice. That is when Jupiter is well placed and well aspected in your birth chart. So this is why, overall, this energy now is in the sky for all of us. But again, that's why it's always good to have an idea of your own birth chart, because things can change, sometimes especially when there's a conjunction, depending how it's aspected in your birth chart. So for example, if you have Saturn and Pluto in late Libras, or let's say in late Aries, or in late Capricorn, as an example, it could be over planets or over combinations, but you see that will give you a square from two difficult planets that brings challenges. So it doesn't mean you wouldn't get this blessing, but for you, if you have a square to Saturn and Pluto, let's say in Libra, then there is a blessing, but it comes with some struggles, or maybe with some inner conflicts, some challenges that you have to overcome before you get the goodies that Venus and Jupiter are bringing you, and that would be different for someone else who maybe has this Saturn in water signs, Scorpio or Pisces, because for them, it will make things even easier, and actually the Saturn will be supporting them even more to make this blessing long lasting over time. So again, if you want to know in more details about your birth chart, overall, at this time, Jupiter is bringing, overall, Jupiter is about the ability for prophecy. You know, like I said, if you have Jupiter well aspected in your chart, it can bring the ability for prophecy, for a need and a capacity for being independent and growth. Wherever Jupiter is, it expands things. It's about growing things. More and more of anything, lots of anything with Jupiter. It's also linked to luck in foreign affairs, um, like foreign travel, dealing with foreign people. So, however, what we have to be watchful for, because the dangers with Jupiter can be greed, arrogance, fanaticism, and a toxic situation that grows out of control because of over optimism in the outcome or because our belief systems is causing us to self-sabotage. So because Jupiter is about growth, so it grows, you know, it could be anything that's growing. So, you know, sometimes that's the thing. Sometimes we might not want growth. Like I just said, if something is toxic, we actually might want some Saturn energy so we can just bring it down and cut it off. So, you know, be careful not to go overboard, basically, because now Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, and because it is well aspected with Venus coming towards him. Venus is applying this conjunction to Jupiter, and then there's going to be Mercury. So, you know, and then there's going to be, yeah, anyhow, there is no bad aspect right now in this chart to Jupiter. So, in this case, we can expect the best of Jupiter with this conjunction to Venus. Because Jupiter in Cancer is about having compassion for people who can't protect themselves, like the most vulnerable, like the elderly people in care homes and children. This is also beneficial to single mothers and issues of housing, and also for real estate in general. So this is good news. Over the next 3 weeks, we can find meaning, we can find closure and healing to anything that happened related to the themes of the Cancer house of our chart. Because Jupiter is now supporting the resolution of any issues about family and maternity. With Jupiter in Cancer, abundance is found in emotional connections and home comfort. So now the downside with this combination, Jupiter, Venus in Cancer, is that unfortunately, sadly, as you know, it's hard to avoid somehow. We can see in the news or in social media, you know, this horror, you know, that comes up sometimes and that are rising. This Jupiter, Venus in Cancer can also bring issues of racism. Like we have seen, you know, in one of these awful videos about this police officer that basically, you know, he was throwing on the floor this woman who was like 9 months pregnant. So this is quite scary, you know, you think what kind of heart, because isn't it Cancer is the sign of the heart. What kind of heart, what kind of human, you know, can do such a thing? Really, there's no excuse. for doing something like this. That's like animal behavior, isn't it? So this is the worst that can happen. Because Jupiter in Cancer is also about expanding homeland security, tribal protection, because Cancer is the sign of our roots, where we come from, our country, patriotism. And we've seen people becoming more protective over their country, over their land. They are getting more territorial. We can see in Europe and France, for example, and in America too. However, I focus on Europe and France because it's where I come from. So we can see, yeah, we can see debates over about borders that are increasing. So I'm mainly focused in the UK and France, and it's quite scary because obviously I'm trying to not focus into it. Um, but I can't avoid it, and I just think that it's a lot more than it used to be, and it's much more shocking, that it used to be, and it feels like humanity is becoming less human in their behavior. Like people are heartless. So now with this energy, it's a good time, to for the other people like us who still have a heart to remember the positive side of being human and of treating other people as equal. Yeah, because we see, more debate about borders increasing because people want to put their own children first. They want their children to have a job in their own birth country. And that's one of the reasons they fear immigration. They want to protect their lands and their kids' jobs. And the same is happening for housing because cancer is about children's housing, feeling safe, protection, protecting our land, protecting our children's. And you can see how Jupiter has been amplifying in growing these issues as well. And it's the same, yes, with housing, because people are like, well, we don't have housing for ourselves. So why should these foreign people come and get our jobs, get our housings when we can't house our own children? So there's a lot of this conversation all around us. There's no coincidence, isn't it? Astrology is reflecting reality, and that's why I say that, because we are talking about Jupiter and Venus in Cancer. And there is also, a good side and a downside to any energies. And this is the downside of this energy. Plus, Saturn is also side note, as we know, as you know, is in Aries now at 12 degrees 57 in this chart. And so with Saturn in Aries, we are also seeing the end of people pleasing, because we know people pleasing is Libra, the opposite side. Saturn in Aries doesn't ask for permission. It straightforwardly says, this is my border, this is my home, this is what I protect. So there is now a return of the tribe that is shutting the door on people's face because the migrants are desperate for survival and the European countries' citizens. They are struggling to make ends meet in their own countries. This is what this conflict is now, that it's growing. Jupiter in Cancer asks us to take care of who we are responsible for. And Saturn says we are first responsible for our own country. And this is why you see these two signs, Aries and Cancer, they are into a square. Aries is about war and putting me first, what I want first. And Cancer wants to take care, of our families first and foremost. Take care of our home first and foremost, about our emotional security. Our home security. So what we can say about this is cruel, and sadly people are blaming each other rather than remembering that we are all pawns in a corporate game. This is leading people to be more focused on their land and families rather than on saving the world and on universal issues. This is why we must reconnect to nature and to the divine goddess and the divine God within each of us. Even in terms of our genders and sexuality choices. Some want to regress, some want to go backwards in time. We see again in Europe and in France and in America a rise in attacks against queer people and LGBTQ people. This is because, let's remember, the sign of Cancer is about creation. It's about giving birth. Giving birth to more than just children. Because a woman can give birth to all types of creations. A woman's womb can give birth to new worlds, to her imagination. The feminine energy has the ability, has the power to create, to bring ideas into physical manifestations when it is operating at its highest level, which is not the case now because most women are unconscious or unaware still to this truth because it has been suppressed. But now this is the whole point. Women are remembering their own power. Because within manifest life is a hidden reality of the highest order. This is what men in power and people in favor of this patriarchal agenda are suppressing. This is why they are trying to use AI, they are trying to use artificial intelligence to do what women can naturally create from our womb. This is why they are trying to replace the need for women by using AI. So all the turmoil and all the wars that you see happening around the world is a sign of these oppressive systems against women coming to an end. Everybody is fighting everybody else because of this, because this is the beginning to a huge change of consciousness that we need to move into a new era and into a new civilization guided by the divine feminine in harmony with the divine masculine, because we don't want to discard either the masculine or the feminine. We need to bring them together in a sacred marriage. So astrologically speaking, we are just on the cusp of a new age. of the age of Aquarius, of the age of the return of the matriarchy. This is about the rescue of the human soul by making time into our busy lives to simply contemplate and to start a process of soul transformation and of cosmos salvation. Because without the soul, there is no way out of these times when those in their last days of power are pulling all the strings possible to prevent the feminine from rising up from the ashes. However, this won't happen because we are destined to reconnect with the spirit of depth in all of us. We live too much in the surface of our consciousness, and we have lost touch with these depths. So it's important to help other people around us to open to this other dimension. And there is no better time than now to open our hearts, to connect to our intuition, and to let our feelings flow and be expressed without shame, to acknowledge the well of wealth in each of us. This is the last Jupiter exalted boost of luck and abundance. Because in a nutshell, Jupiter plus Venus, it's big love. So for you in your personal life, it's possible for some of you that simply put is going to be about big love, big love story, a new big love, because when there is a conjunction with Venus and Jupiter, it's like a new cycle that is starting. Like when there is a new moon, the moon comes to the sun, and you can do that with any planet to another planet. So Venus is coming to Jupiter. So it's a restart of a new cycle of a big love. It can possibly be, or big money. Venus in conjunction with Jupiter in Cancer is going to bring Venusian energy, harmony, peace, a blessing, or there is at least something good that gets expanded, or there could be a relationship, like I said before, reconciliation. However, with Jupiter, sometimes it can also be a breakup if there is a relationship that is preventing you from a better one. Then Jupiter can remove the blockage to your happiness, before you can receive a good relationship. So that means that, sometimes when there is a Jupiter transit, what people don't talk often about is also this fact that I just said, I have seen it, is that, let's say you have Jupiter transiting in your seventh house, but now you have been entangled into a toxic relationship for a long time. Then what Jupiter is going to do is first remove that relationship. And that's what the transit of Jupiter is going to do. It's not going to straight up bring you someone new. First, you have to remove the old person. You see, so sometimes it can be a breakup. Normally not, but it can happen. And if it's a breakup, it's because before you can get the right person for you, you need to remove the other one. Same for financial issues. Maybe someone lose their job and then they find a better job. So this is a good time to beautify our homes, to improve the joy we get from our creative projects. This can be healing the relationships with our mothers. For example, I have had this, like all of you, this transit of Jupiter and it's touched my moon. So, I have experienced this. I had the closure of the relationships with my mom and my grandmother, because I come from a single mom household. However, I finally learned to say no and to move away from it because it was a toxic narcissistic family, unfortunately, where they have scapegoat me, and I have dealt with this for many years. And after, it's only now because of this transit of Jupiter in Cancer, where that was conjunct with my moon, that I feel like I have had emotional closure and wisdom and understanding. Like moving on and no hard feelings. So like it's just come to a closure. I gain the wisdom to walk away in peace. So that's what it has done for me. So same as I said before, it's removed the toxicity from my family. For some, it could have bring good event in your family, this transit of Jupiter in Cancer. But for people like me, when your family was toxic, then it has cleared this away. It's easier for me now to move on and focused on what so far I have created my own family. If that makes sense. Uh, yeah, so finally, what I would say is that this is an abundance of love, of the good things in life. Love or money, and your self-esteem also can increase because Venus is also our self-worth. How we feel about ourselves is physical self-worth of what we have that's tangible, but it's also our self-worth inside ourselves. So you can have more self-confidence at this time. So as a result, it's advised to watch to not spend too much because Venus and Jupiter combination can also show up as a big expense. For some of us, it can also be more things that we have to purchase, you know. Uh, more money comes in, but it's possible that more money has to be spent as well. So be aware of it. Because we know like when we have all this adrenaline and these rushes of good feelings, we can spend more, isn't it? So when you're aware of it, it's a good thing to not spend too much. And then also, this is a good time to satisfy our senses because Venus is about sensuality, the pleasure of the food, the pleasure of certain clothes against your skin. So with this combination, if we go, for example, to a place to experience pleasure or to a party, whatever we do to satisfy our senses, the only warning is we have to watch for things not to get out of control because now we feel strongly like going after what we want, grabbing this opportunity. We feel like going after an ideal vision that we had in mind and that is finally now being offered to us. And the only challenge is to simply enjoy too much of a good thing without hurting ourselves. Because with over optimism, with over indulgence, or with overspending, it's the only way we can hurt ourselves with such conjunction of Venus and Jupiter in Cancer. So enjoy yourself. I wish you a lot of love and abundance. I hope you got something useful from this video. Thank you for watching to the end. Feel free to check my services via the links in the description below. And until next time, take care and bye for now.